Hi everybody, this is Victoria. Welcome back to another new episode of Art Tutorials. Today we are going to learn together how to paint silk like the old masters, step by step. Because I had a video previously on discovering art together about how to paint silk like the old masters though, but it was a little bit more of a descriptive and kind of things to keep in mind and also things to keep an eye out for though, but didn't really show you the exact process. So today we are going to jump into kind of learning how to start the painting from a basic sketch just to map out where everything is, and then we will also paint the base layer, also adding more top layers so that we can polish things off until it becomes the final result of the beautiful silk paintings like the old masters. So if you guys are ready, let's get started. So first we're going to have to get some art materials prepared for today. So all you'll need is basically a blank canvas. I'm using a 8x10 canvas. You can use any size you want, whatever is comfortable for you. And we will also need a pencil and eraser. I would recommend using a kneadable eraser because that way you don't have to press too hard to actually erase the pencil lines, and make sure you draw very lightly for the sketch. So we're gonna go ahead and grab some paints. You only need 3 main paints depending on like where you're going to be painting those. So we are going to concentrate on how to paint the blue silk today. There will be more tutorials about the other ones, but I will talk about that later. So we will also need some oil paints. So first, definitely we'll need cobalt blue since we are painting blue silk. And we will also need a bit of titanium white and also ivory black. And these are basically the 3 main colors I use to paint this particular silk. So we actually don't need that many oil paints, just the 3 main ones. And we will also need a bit of linseed oil to kind of make the paint a little bit more smooth to go on the dry canvas. And also we need paintbrushes. I just use synthetic soft paintbrushes. You can get this at your local art shop. You can also even get this at the dollar store. And to be honest, as long as they're good quality and they're soft enough to do the job, then you're good to go. Oh, and also don't forget, we also need a palette to mix the paint too. So I just use a regular styrofoam plate. I recently tried this palette out because it's really simple, very easy. These were actually recycled because they used to belong to vegetables. So sometimes when you buy vegetables at like Asian shops, you would have like these styrofoam plates at the bottom. So that's where it came from. So I'm technically reusing this, and I love to be resourceful. So be creative, use what you have at home. You don't have to necessarily buy everything. You could have other alternatives, and kind of being mindful of what you can do with the things you already have. And definitely you'll probably need some paper towels to clean your brushes, and a palette knife to scoop out paint if you have these large paint tubes. So now that we got all of our art materials ready, we're gonna go ahead and start with the sketch. So the sketch is really important because we want to make sure that we know where everything is placed, mapping everything out so it's easier for us to start painting. I've prepared a picture reference and also the outline of what I did for the sketch, so you guys can go ahead and print that out. And you can actually trace that over on top of the canvas if you're a slightly bit too lazy to kind of do the sketch on your own, or if you need more help to kind of learn how to start off, then that's a very easy and straightforward way. All you would have to do is kind of shade in the back of the print that you did and then turn it face towards the canvas, and then you're going to go ahead and trace over on top. And basically what that would do is that once you kind of draw over the lines on the print paper, it will basically transfer over onto the canvas. So once we're done with the sketch, now we kind of see where everything is. Now we're gonna go ahead and start adding the first base layer, or what we call the base color layer. So what this does is that it would help us kind of map out where each color is on the canvas and also on the subject. So places that are lighter, we're going to keep it light, and then any places that are darker, we're going to fill them in with a darker tone or a mid-tone. So this is really important because we don't want to go through the hassle of filling in a light part with a dark color, and that's because it's going to be bright anyways, so why would we make it darker than it is? So it's a little bit more straightforward if we actually map these things out and do smaller adjustments later on when we go into the polishing step and also kind of touching up things before it becomes the final painting and the final result. So I'm not the type of artist that would actually pre-mix my colors. I'd like to kind of mix as I go. So if, for example, this part, I would mix a little bit of titanium white with a bit of cobalt blue, and I would kind of adjust as I look at the picture reference while I paint. So you want to make sure that you pay close attention to the picture reference, and also taking a look at where is the color tones. So if we have like some mid color tones, I would definitely grab more of the cobalt blue, and if it's going to be a little bit lighter, I would probably grab a little bit more titanium white, and just kind of working my way with seeing what I need, and I would grab the falling color. So the main key idea for this particular step, the base color layer, is to fill in as much of the canvas as we can, because we want to be able to add in the more polished stuff later on, which is like a second or third or fourth layer, but the canvas is quite dry, so it's good to be able to have a bit of paint on it before we actually start smoothing things out and also starting to add our details. Okay, so now that we are done with our base color, let's go ahead and go into the second, third, and fourth layer of the painting. So basically, within these steps, we're going to polish things off, make things look smoother, and also getting closer to the final result. So this is the part where we would want to adjust shapes if we need to, adjust the color and the value tones of the subject, and also just double checking to see if everything's in the right place, and if it's not, this is the time that we will want to adjust and move things before we do the final touch-ups. So I'm using a lot of the dabbing technique to start polishing and actually somewhat smooth out the edges. So here's the place where I can get really into smoothing out and kind of reaching those smaller tight spaces with a smaller brush over here, which I'm using. And the key idea is to kind of build a nice gradation between the darker tones and gradually getting lighter. So the thing with silk texture is that you want to pay attention to where the darkest parts are and also where the midtones and brightest parts are, because in order to get that silk-like texture, you would notice that some places do blend in with one another quite nicely, mostly like this area of the back part, and you also do have the more sharper areas where we have more contrast between the lights and the darks, like this part. Okay, and now we are pretty much done with the polishing and adding our second, third, and fourth layers of color, and now we can go ahead and do the last few touch-ups just to make this complete and final. So these are probably the smaller adjustments, still smaller tweaks, but they are really important because it really helps us add those nice, crisp, clean, and also making sure that certain parts have a little bit more softer edges and other parts that has more sharper edges, which attracts our attention, having more stronger contrast between the light and the dark so that it can depict the perfect texture for silk. It's a lot of tweaking, a lot of back and forth where we would adjust some of the edges, softening the edges as well, and then also making certain edges sharper, and also just kind of adding all those little details into the painting so that we see a beautiful transition of color, and so that it doesn't look choppy or anything like that. So it's a lot of tedious work though, but that's what makes the final painting spark and brings it to life. Okay, and that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining into this brand new art tutorial, and I hope you guys learned a few new things on how to paint silk like the old masters. There's actually the full version of this art tutorial video on my Patreon, so you can go ahead and check out patreon.com/VictoriaUArt, and you can actually get even more insight, more tips and advice on how to paint silk like the old masters, because we've only kind of went over the blue silk. There is more info and tutorials about how to paint the white silk, and also how I painted the skin tones for this particular painting. So please feel free to check it out, and I will also be including art material lists and also different references for you guys to practice, because sometimes you might not want to paint the whole painting that I did today, so I did variations of different practices for different levels and stuff. So if you want to just kind of test out and see what it's like to be able to paint silk texture in a smaller form, I do have picture references and also sketches so that you can print out for the layout, so you can practice at home and put in the things that you learned today in this tutorial, and also the other tutorials that I have on the Patreon. And yeah, okay, awesome. Thank you again so much, and I was really happy I got to share this with you guys. I'm looking forward to making new art tutorial videos like this in the future and sharing what I've learned and sharing my ways of painting with you guys. So yeah, awesome. Okay, and I shall see you again next week, and then we shall see what we will be up to. But take care, stay creative, have fun, and happy painting. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and yep, awesome. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, and I shall catch you guys next time. Bye.